You see these things gliding across the ocean, right? These massive container ships, these cruise liners. They're basically floating cities. But have you ever stopped to think, how on earth do you even begin to build something that enormous? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and find out. And this is where the magic happens. I mean, just look at this place. This isn't just a port, it's a factory, but on a scale that's almost hard to wrap your head around. See those massive basins? Those are called dry docks, and each one is big enough to lay a skyscraper down inside it. Seriously, this is where giants are born. So that's the big question, isn't it? How do you go from a simple, flat sheet of steel to a complex, floating city that can sail all the way around the world? You know, the process is this fascinating blend of just raw brute force and super high-tech precision. And that's exactly what we're going to break down. Okay, so the number one rule in modern shipbuilding? Efficiency. It's all about flow. Before you even think about building the ship, you have to perfectly design the factory that builds it. Every single part of a shipyard is laid out for a very specific reason, to create a seamless, logical path from raw material to the finished product. And designing the shipyard itself is a massive puzzle. You've got to think about everything. What kind of ship are we building? What kind of crazy machinery do we need to bend all that steel? And just how enormous do the cranes need to be to lift these pieces? It all comes down to creating the absolute most efficient assembly line you can possibly imagine. All right, think of this flowchart as our roadmap for the journey. It shows you the entire life of every single piece of steel. It starts over here, arriving in the stockyard, then moves through all these fabrication steps, and finally ends up right here, in the final assembly dock. So let's follow that path and start right at the beginning. But wait, before anyone lays a hand on a single piece of steel, the ship has to exist somewhere else first. It's got to be born in the digital world. And this is where modern technology has completely revolutionized this ancient craft. So way back when, they used a method called loftwork. Can you believe this? Engineers would literally draw the ship's parts at full size on a gigantic floor. I mean, talk about slow and painstaking. Today, it is a whole different ballgame. It's all done with computer-aided design, or CAD. They build a perfect 3D digital twin of the ship on a computer, and those digital files talk directly to the machines on the factory floor, telling them exactly where to cut and bend with unbelievable precision. And this right here is a perfect example of what comes out of that process. It's called the lines plan, and it's basically the ship's DNA. It's the master blueprint that defines the exact shape and every single curve of the hull from every possible angle. You can think of it like the ship's unique architectural fingerprint, all created and stored digitally. Okay, so the digital blueprint is locked and loaded. Now it's time to get our hands dirty and head out to the workshop floor. This is where those pixels on a screen start to become a physical reality, and where raw steel begins its incredible transformation. So the physical journey kicks off here. Huge plates of raw steel, some of them several inches thick, get delivered to the stockyard. From there, they head into the machining shops, where they get sliced up by high-intensity plasma torches and bent into curves by presses that use thousands of tons of force. It's just incredible power. Finally, these freshly shaped pieces are welded together into the first basic structural units. Now, the key concept that really makes all of modern shipbuilding possible is prefabrication. They perfected this during World War II to build ships like the Liberty ships at just insane speeds. The idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of building one giant ship in one spot, you build it in smaller, more manageable sections and then just piece them all together at the end. This lets different teams work on different parts all at the same time, often indoors, which leads to way faster, higher quality construction. And this is where that prefabrication idea gets really impressive. Because those small units we were just talking about, yeah, they don't stay small for long. We're about to see the jump from two-dimensional pieces to massive three-dimensional structures. So they take those smaller units and start welding them together into these enormous 3D blocks. And it's no exaggeration to say that some of these blocks are the size of a small apartment building. The best way to think of it is like building with the world's biggest, most high-tech Legos. But here's the really clever part. These blocks aren't just empty steel boxes. To maximize that efficiency we talked about, they are pre-outfitted. That means all the complex guts of the ship, all the pipes, the wiring, the ventilation systems, are installed right there in the workshop. They'll even drop in fully furnished modular cabins before the block ever leaves the building. It's brilliant. Then comes the main event. Towering gantry cranes, the kind that can lift over 1,000 tons, hoist these completed blocks into the dry dock. Each one is positioned with millimeter accuracy and then welded to its neighbors. And just like that, piece by giant piece, the complete hull of the ship starts to take shape.
So now, the hull is complete. It finally looks like a ship, but there's one major step left: getting this behemoth off the land and into its natural habitat, the water.
Now, you've probably seen a few ways to do this. There's the spectacular end launch and side launch, where the ship slides dramatically into the water with a huge splash. But for today's megaships, the process is way more gentle. It's called floating out. They simply open the gates to the dry dock, let the sea rush in, and the ship gracefully floats for the very first time.
But even after it's floating, the work isn't quite done. The ship is then towed to what's called a fitting out basin. You can think of this as the finishing touch station. Here it gets all the final installations and goes through tons of testing before it's officially delivered and ready to start its service.
And so we come full circle. Looking at this shipyard again, you no longer just see ships, do you? Now you can see the entire story, from the raw steel arriving in the stockyard to the precisely assembled blocks in the dry dock. It's an incredible dance of logistics and engineering that brings these steel giants to life. So from a digital blueprint to a floating city, building a modern megaship is a testament to human ingenuity, done one massive block at a time. And while the construction is an epic journey, for the ship, its real adventure is just beginning. What amazing feat of engineering should we explore next?